And then over there is that corn again?
Yeah, it's corn again, and this bed has not been um, planted. Yes.
Yeah, it's just okay, some extra corn.
Yes, for example, and we can put a lot of other plants over there. We'll see a bit
There's
later.
some fruit trees also?
Yes, there is a few fruit trees happening. Rick would talk a bit better than me about them because he planted them.
Yeah.
And yes, there are fruit trees all around the garden, but also in different places in Radhadesh that he planted. Yeah.
Okay, and then okay, this bed is not some carrots.
Yeah, we have some carrots here, and that's an interesting bed because you can see that I plant a few rows of carrots in early May, and then there was this kind of very dry 2 weeks. It didn't rain at all, and carrots needs 2 weeks of humidity in the soil to sprout out.
I see.
And we can see that here there was some carrots who never sprouted out actually, but with the rain that we had recently, a few of them starting to sprout out.
Okay.
So one way of doing it, we could also, for example, keep the bed with a lot of weed, and then the soil will just stay humid.
Stay wet, yeah.
But then after, that's quite hard to remove the weed and not to remove the carrots.
Yeah.
And so that's something that we have to experiment a little bit to see
Now you have here
which will be the best way.
wheat farm. So
Yes, a wheat farm.
that's a typical wheat farm, and recognized by the purple flowers that are growing.
Well, wheat
So-
sufficient.
So this humidity, aren't they taking away all the humidity from here?
I wouldn't say so, but anyway, the goal here would be also to cover it with mulch, with straw, because it's never good to leave the soil like that. So that would be, of course, the next step in this bed is to cover it completely.
And what do we have here?
Here we have onion and garlic.
Okay, what are we doing with that?
So
I thought it was.
so I plant onion and garlic with carrots because they are good friends,
I see.
and they repel each other sickness. So that's quite interesting. But after we'll have to maybe offer them to somebody who wants to eat them. For the nature, yes. And here we have oats.
Oats, huh?
Yes.
Some grains?
Yes. So the goal will be to put some grains also in this crop rotation system.
But it's you won't get much out of a little row.
We won't get much of it, but normally this bed I don't put anything during 1 year. So it's like the beds having a break with the with this crop.
Yes. Shouldn't Radhadesh like have some fields in other, because there's a lot of land? Shouldn't they just grow some fields with grains? If they want
With
to?
grain it will be very nice, yes, if we can have grains from another field, but then we have to talk with the management.
Yeah, we can.
But
do that.
yes, that would be amazing. But it will
But
need
are
quite
there
a lot.
some? I mean, if you could identify some fields that are suitable, because in terms of light, in terms of water, whatever, in terms of slope.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you know, some fields maybe too
Yeah.
much on a slope, but it's like we on our Spanish farm. I was 8 years in charge of our farm in Spain. We have 40 hectares of wheat.
Oh yes, oh yeah, that's a lot. And how many people did you feed with this?
Yeah, we would sell even.
Sell it. Oh.
Yeah, we would feed and sell.
Wow.
Yeah, we had
Yes.
more than we needed.
Yes, that
And
would
we
be
had
very
a
nice too.
community of about 40 people, like altogether, including
Oh, yeah.
the kids.
Yes, that would be very nice, and there would be maybe also a way of doing rice, because some farmers doing rice on a dry land.
On dry land?
Yeah, that's
do rice?
possible. That's possible too, but I think it will be the experiment for another year, because we cannot experiment.
I've never seen dry rice.
Yes.
Of course, I've spent a lot of time in rice countries. Like
Yes.
Bengal, you know, is Manipur is like just rice.
Yeah.
But why not like local grains or things like buckwheat? Isn't that easy to grow in this climate?
That would be easier than rice, I'm pretty sure. But
Because I read that that's what they used to eat in
Oh, yes.
in Belgium.
Yeah.
C'est des blés ici.
The
Yes.
blé, oui, oui,
en
oui.
blé. Ah oui.
Enfin, c'est non.
The blé
Mhm.
is.
C'est que c'est majority it's potato.
Yeah.
Yes.
Majority of
Yeah.
grain,
Yeah, yeah.
Potatoes. Yes.
Now, grain, obviously, you need more area, right? That's the
Yeah,
one.
that will be better. But here, because actually the grains, the oats, what is quite
Yeah.
interesting, we can just harvest the oats out of it, and
Yeah.
also, like you said before, we can also use the rest of the plant and just mulch it on the bed, and it's
Okay.
really feeding for the earth.
Okay.
So
okay.
that's also an interesting
Yes,
role of
yes,
it.
yes, yes, yes. Okay, then here's your compost.
Yes.
And like that. And,
And here we have also spinach and potatoes. That's another experiment. We had mangold and potatoes, and here we have spinach and potatoes.
and
And-
see if they like each other. And
Yes.
some nettles.
And yes, nettles, or maybe I think it's
Not nettles?
an agastache, a kind of mint,
Oh, yeah.
actually, but looks very much like nettles.
It does.
But I didn't get
It doesn't stink.
think. Yes,
Yeah,
so that's good.
God, I would swear it's nettles.
And here we still have also this rows of peas. You know, we had 6 rows before, and then there is another rows with peas. But I already start a new crop, a winter crop. It's kale that you
Mhm.
can see, the purple one.
Okay.
And then
purple is kale.
yes, and when this one will just die on the bed, then the kale will just also grow and
I see.
and
Because
do
you
the
plant that so
succession.
early because kale can even grow in the snow.
Yeah, but we plant them now, and then we will harvest them in winter. I mean, in autumn.
In autumn, eh?
And
Yeah.
then, if we want to have some seeds, for example, we will have
Yeah.
to wait a bit longer, and then they will probably meet the snow at that time.
Yeah, I've seen
Yeah.
that.
Yes.
I was for a while in the north of Holland in the winter in a farmhouse
Oh.
for one winter, and all we had was kale.
Oh.
And there's a snow all outside, but kale we still had.
So you were eating kale
We
every
ate
day.
kale, yeah.
Yes. And the one that is between the peas here it's not curved anymore, but it's cress.
Okay.
So different crop
Yeah.
on these two bed.
And then for fertilizing the soil, some cow manure is good if you just
Yes.
throw that on the bed or like before you start
Yes.
planting, you would do such a thing.
Yeah, actually, just after a few beds. So there is beds with heavy feeders plant. Like for example the potatoes or the 3 sisters and the little brothers.
Yeah.
All together they eat quite much in the soil. So next year this bed, end of autumn, when they will not produce anymore,
Mhm.
then I will put this cow manure layer on the top
Okay.
to welcome another crop.
Maybe we should sit down and
Yeah.
talk a bit over this. And what's growing here? That's beans?
Climbing beans, yes.
Yeah.
And then hopefully they will make a beans hut in the
Okay,
next
bean
few.
house, yeah.
Yes, and then we can just go under and harvest the beans that hanging.
Wow, like
That would be the best.
a whole bean house, you know?
Yes,
I guess that's where Mr. Bean lives.
he would like it, I'm sure. Yes.
Okay, let's sit down.
Yeah.
Permaculture and teaching permaculture is a big opportunity for our own community. I think there's benefit, and for the world to show that we are doing something on the cutting edge, dealing with the need of the world, coming up with a more ecological way of life. I think that's what we should offer the world. We cannot only talk high philosophy. That's very nice, but we have to show something practical. And practical is very much growing your own food in a harmonious way with nature. And I want to thank Thibaud for everything he's doing and for everything he's showing us here. It's very, very nice, and I hope to see it grow to another dimension in the future, 10 or 12, or sounds really interesting. Yeah, thank you.